and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. As always, I'm your host, the dad bod god himself, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight I have Mr. Ben Anderson, one of the geniuses behind PWA, one of the many masterminds that help put the shows together, help put the production together. He's a filmmaker, he's a director, and I'm really excited to have him on the show. But before I bring him on, I just want to take a quick pause for that cause to thank those sponsors that help us keep this podcast going every single week for free. So first up is healthvape.com. Now, HealthVape is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore that energy that you need and give you that vital boost. And they're vitamin infused. They're like vaping a fucking Red Bull. No joke. So check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Next up is sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, sleefs.com. Now, if you or someone you know is an athlete, this is the place for you guys to go. They have all sorts of athletic wear that you'll need. They've got arm brands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, mouthguards, boots, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you hear me raving about all the time. And straight up, I've thrown out all of my other boxes. I only rock these dirty boxes. They stay fresh, they stay dry, and they've got some funky designs on the front of them, so when the belt buckle comes undone at the end of the night, you know what I'm saying? Your lovely partners are going to have something to giggle on at the front of your boxes for a change. But guys, check out Sleeves, check out those dirty boxes. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Now, guys, MWA Podcast Network, we bring you some amazing fucking content and shows. Stuff like Killing the Business with former ECW original, The Kingpin, Angel Medina, and King Mega. These guys break down everything that's going on in the world of wrestling. They give their veteran take on it, which is usually, them going, fuck this shit. But it's really entertaining. It's great to watch. So make sure you tune in live every Friday, 10 a.m. Australian time, which is 8 p.m. Thursdays, USA Eastern Time. Also, make sure you check out Nights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by the dead presidents Boogaloo and Lowrider and Cade Lothbrock. Another amazing show. Check out NXT Roundup. Check out Shooting the Shit with me. But wherever you're finding us, as long as you're finding us, make sure you like us. Gives us. I can't even speak. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. But guys, without further ado, let's get into my chat with Mr. Ben Anderson. Boo! What is up, dude? Welcome.
Oh, my goodness. That's the most excited anyone's ever been to say anything about me. I mean, my goodness, what a beautiful intro. Thank you so much for that. Incredible.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on the show. I definitely have to put you over. And I didn't mention the Weird Al Yankovic lookalike as well, because the resemblance is uncanny.
I know. It's unbelievable I've not been cast. I've got everyone saying, have you watched the trailer? I'm like, no, I haven't had a protest. I can't believe I'm not in it. I mean, my agent was available. We could have had a conversation, and I'm not in the bloody thing. Unbelievable.
Mate, I was shocked. But, dude, thank you so much for doing the show. It's great to have you on. And, you're one of the guys, like, I've gotten to speak to here and there at shows, but not a great deal, because you're always busy running around. You've got such an important job on your hands on show day. So this is a huge, huge treat for me to have you on. There's so much I want to get into. And firstly, just thank you for your time.
Oh no, thank you. I'm in your world now. It's kind of nice. It's much more relaxing over here than than out there. I mean, my God, we're running. Yeah, I get to say, hey, here you are. Here's a headset. See you later. But that's about it. But yeah, and congratulations on turning 40, by the way. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I
Turn the
know.
big 4-0, man. That's
Oh yeah.
some scary shit.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. We all, yeah, we've done well.
Thank you very much, man. But
Yeah.
dude, like getting into it, man, like, some of the stuff that you've done for PWA, and I've said it before when I had Jax on, what you guys do is absolutely world class. The vignettes, as far as like the Old Man Bonza one, the Lucci one that you guys did as well, and also the schoolyard cinematic brawl, which was shot beautifully. And I think a lot of the stuff you do is great. But how do you find inspiration for what you're filming and what you're putting forward?
Uh, well, thank you. First of all, thank you. That's very kind. I mean, this is something I pulled from. I can't remember who said it. It might have been Mick or someone. They said that the worst wrestling takes from other wrestling, and that's something that we try and live by. We pull like I always get my inspiration from filmmaking and television and other places outside of wrestling to say this is something that's new and different. I know it's something like the Prefix Playground Brawl. That was inspired by Superbad. A lot of that, those sorts of concepts and the way that the characters interplayed. Old Man Bonza was like 6 different movies in one. All these other things, I think an interesting one, like you mentioned, was the Lucci one. That was entirely inspired quite a fair bit by Far Cry. The opening of Far Cry and having that first person guy, like you're the character watching it. So really, it's everything other than wrestling, that we bring in, and it kind of creates something new. And wrestling that the best wrestling pulls from the real world, I find, all throughout history, and especially Attitude Era, everything that was going on back then, that was all pulled from all these different places and things. And so much kind of bad wrestling pulls from the wrestling of yesteryear rather than from the things around us now, which I find, yeah.
And I think that that's the
TV.
thing. Like, you can take things from wrestling past and sort of incorporate it, as long as you sort of do it as a homage. You know what I mean? But when you try and like recreate history, that's one thing. I just go, or try and just, this angle worked really well, so we're going to continue doing like the similar angle with other people, and it's just like it becomes cringy at some stages.
Yeah, because you should be able to describe something as, this is a story of 2 friends who have gone their separate ways, rather than this is the angle from 2003 with these 2 wrestlers that was on WWE. You should be able to describe it as a universal story rather than something derivative. Because that's the stuff we connect to, not, this is that angle from before, etc., etc. So, yeah.
And the thing is, everything has been done in wrestling multiple times and recycled. So when you start bringing in outside, ideas from movies and music and for whatever it is, you get such a more like in-depth and entertaining, product of just having like the same standard cookie cutter, characters and product.
I completely agree. Yeah, and it's sort of like Jax and I have a very similar mindset where we finish something we are very conscious if we've done the same thing too many times. I know, everyone at PWA is very much like the next thing. It's like, there's a lot of, when we pitch ideas and things, it's like, well, that all of it's good except for this bit, because that bit you've done 3 times already, and it's something either aesthetic or an idea, even a shot or a style. It's just like, it's those things where it's like, we've done that too many times already. Think of something new. And so it's keeping us on our toes. Like, you got to be creative. You can't just open up the same drawer every time. It becomes exhausting if you do that. It becomes boring.
But also, I think if you go outside of the world of wrestling and you can do like relatable things to like what's in pop culture, TV, movies, stuff like that, you bring in like outside audience as well, which might have been like on the fence about wrestling, but then there's a certain story or certain character that pops up to them. They go, what's this over here? And then obviously then that trickles down into the rest of the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also, the video stuff affects, especially for new fans, it affects who their favorite wrestlers are, or their first impressions as well, quite drastically. There was a show where I invited a mentor of mine who was actually on the camera department for the Power Rangers movie from the 90s. He's a film guy, been around for ages. Awesome dude. His favorite wrestler of the night was Kingsley, and a big part of that was because we did the Crow thing, that show. And that was his first ever show. And it was like, it's just such a big introduction to a character, and those sorts of things we have noticed have started to help, as well as like amplify something that they've already created and put a lot of work into, because it always should be assisting the wrestler, not here's my idea and you should take it. It's a back and forth to make a character larger than life in a lot of ways.
And I think that's what you guys do really well. Like, you look at independent wrestling, from around the world and major promotions. And I don't want to sort of like have this promotion against PWA or anything like that, so I don't want to mention names of promotions. But
yeah,
as far as like the quality of production, PWA is on another level, and as far as any other company, like on an independent promotional level, you know what I mean? Like, you hands down, and it stands out above that. And I think that's why, part of the reason why the PWA does get such a worldwide, eyes on it, is because of the production, as well as the amazing wrestling and stars and talent that they have on the roster.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. It's that sort of stuff that we've been working hard, and we want to, you're going to notice us. The old hashtag that kind of follows us along is, but all of our goals in terms of the things that we're trying to achieve, they've not been national, they've been international. We never want to be the best in Australia. We want to be one of the best in the world for the things that we do, and we put a lot of work into doing that. We're pulling from the right places, and asking a lot of favors, putting a lot of work in, and honestly, doing a lot with a little is the most impressive thing I think that we do. Is we don't have the budget that WWE does. We don't have the budget that anywhere in the States, not even close. And it's doing a lot with a little and saying, well, here, how can we achieve this same idea with something smaller than a studio full of 800 extras or whatever, and a crane or whatever. It's like, how can we do this with just 3 people, three crew, and a wrestler?
Like,
to get the
for you,
feeling.
what's been the most difficult project that you've worked on? Let's go the pro wrestling world, and then obviously the outside of pro wrestling world. But what's probably been the most difficult project for you inside the pro wrestling world that you've pulled off, but you sat there and went, oh, this is going to be like iffy.
Would you, the live stream as a concept would be the number one. Aside from like an actual, like a specific video, the live stream as a whole thing, that was terrifying. That was a message that I got from someone from the company, like, hey, do you know how to live stream? I'm like, no. It's like, can you figure it out in about 2 months time? And I'm like, I can try. And then here we are. We got exceptionally lucky, with the people that I know, that they knew the skills, and they were happy to come on board and help us and teach us and build this thing. And we've had crew that have not done shows in 2 years and come back and been like, this is just a much tighter ship than it was before, which meant the world to me. Hearing, we've been trying to build a thing for a very long time, and here we are. But in terms of videos, my God, they've all had their own special challenges. I think Old Man Bonza was one of the scariest, because that's anything involving visual effects and post effects. You don't know how they're going to turn out. You can leave the set and you can leave your filming day and be like, well, that looks great, but will it work? And then we gave it, to a very talented individual named Tama, who is, was working in Fox Studios at the time with a company. And he took it and ran with it. And then we have one of the most, like, the cool, it's still my wallpaper on my desktop, is the snow shot. But he's one of those people, he's similar to us, me and Jax, where he looks at that and goes, oh, there's so much wrong with it. That's terrible. It was his first draft. And he's like, I've only got enough time to do one draft. And I'm like, you're kidding. We had people come up to us and be like, oh, how did you film in the snow? I'm like, we didn't. We didn't.
It was so well done. Like, like that to me was so enjoyable to watch, because you could see the production value went into it. And that's what I thought. I was like, how the fuck did they go? Did they go to like Perisher for a weekend to film?
Yeah, no. That was actually up near Jenolan Caves, and we shot it, and then it actually snowed there 2 weeks later. And I was like, son of a bitch.
You wouldn't have been able to tell, though, man. That's the big thing. But
it's incredible.
Dude, how did you get involved in the world of wrestling?
Oh, that's I mean, it's a long story. My home company is PWA from when I was a wee boy. So I used to go to the shows when I was about 10 years old. Back at the Liverpool Masonic Centre. I don't know because you're quite new, aren't you? Or have you been around for a while? As a fan,
a couple years.
Couple years, yeah. Because this is like OG. This is like not many people. Yeah. It's a long time ago. I was a wee boy. It's like whoever paid for the Facebook ad in 2010 is the reason why I'm here, because I just it's like most people in this country, they have no idea that wrestling's here. They know that the WWE exists and they watch it. They just don't know that it's here and prominent. And we're starting to stir the pot a bit. But and so then I went to this show, and it was at Liverpool Masonic Centre. It's this old building, and I went in and I'm like, wow, this is just ECW. I mean, it's just the end. The main event was Ryan Eagles and Harley Jackson, I think, and there was a Death Valley driver off the top turnbuckle through a table covered in thumbtacks, and I'm like, this is it for me. This is my heaven. And my mum and dad were with me.
You were 8 years old?
I was 10. I was 10 years old. Yeah, I wouldn't have been. Probably. Oh no, I would have been about 12. I think I would have been old enough. Yeah, and then we went. So then we went every year for my birthday, and then my best mate's birthday was November, and mine's October. So we'd do this hit of 3 shows, and then my other mate was September as well. So we do 3 shows in a row. Get that little awesome. Like 3-month pocket of the storylines. The next one we went to, now my current boss, threw a shovel at my mum by accident. Like I found the footage of that the other day. He threw it out of the ring in an I Quit match, and it skipped. And my mum, who's dressed for a night out in a lovely dress in a hall in the middle of Liverpool, not quite sure what she signed up for. Nearly getting smacked with a shovel. There was a street fight on one of the nights, so they went out into the actual street, and there was a powerbomb onto the bonnet of someone's car. Like, I'm just like, this is just wild. It's so interactive and it's so much fun, and there's no disconnect like there is with the big companies. Like, you are in it and you are living it, and it's just my mind exploded. And then naturally I grew out of wrestling when I got a bit older and so on, and then it does that thing where it gets its claws into you and doesn't let go, and it starts calling you back, and you get into your early 20s and you're like, God, I miss wrestling a little bit, and you start watching it again. And then so then I was at film school, in second year of film school, and we had a documentary semester, and we had a couple ideas building for that, and then and there was a pitch involving a pitch to the ABC for ABC Arts, and I said, wouldn't it be funny if we pitched wrestling as an art form to ABC Arts? Because I believe it. I know everyone in this room won't, but I think it would be funny. And so then we did it. And because I was like, we could try a couple companies. I remember PWA was a thing when I was young. I quite liked them. They were the first people to respond on the email straight away. It just was like everything kind of just fell into place. And so we filmed this doco with them, and it was the show before the Will Ospreay show that kind of blew everything up into what it is today. We did this doco at Rudy Hill RSL, and there was a few botches, a few wild things, but we got the story that we wanted. It was actually Matty Wahlberg's first ever match for PWA as well, which is why we had footage for the documentary that was filmed X amount of years later, is because I was there for the first day and I kept the footage. So then did this doco, went well. ABC didn't take it, but the lady was blown away at the representative from the ABC. I watched her jaw drop. She asked me, have I ever cried from wrestling? I was like, yeah, of course. And then I went, Ric Flair Ric Flair retiring with Shawn Michaels. Of course, I wept. And she's like her mouth just dropped. The whole room was like, Jesus Christ, this guy's a bit nuts. But I was so passionate and believed in it. And then and so then doco was made, good reception, thought I'd do more with it. And then I messaged Dear Sweet, the one person that in the current company that you should put over the most out of anyone is Big Fudge, because he's the reason that I am here. Big Fudge is the ultimate reason that PWA has succeeded. Draw it, other than the person who ever paid for that Facebook ad, the other person, draw it back into Big Fudge, is that there was a shot in the documentary where his mask was off whilst building the ring. And I was like, we might send this places. Are you comfortable with this? Yes, was the answer. And then I was like, hey, by the way, I was so like overwhelmed with emotion doing this again and seeing everyone still going at it and still wrestling and, you know, sticking around for such a long time. I want to help. If you've got a video coming up or anything you need, let me know. Actually, I do, he says. And he had a promo for the new Pro Rumble, which was at the time they would do an award for the best promo. I think they still do. I'm not too sure. Yeah, we did a promo for that, and then suddenly next person goes, "Wow, that promo was great. Can I get you to do that one?" And the Star Show came up, and I did a couple promos for that, and then Jax got involved right about the same time doing the hype packages, and then it's just like all these natural things, and the ball started rolling, and then I'm like, let's do the next thing. I graduated from film school. I'm like, I'm going to do this full time. Let's go for it. And then it just all kind of turned into the thing that it is today quite naturally, which is, you know, a beautiful thing.
But it's funny, like you mentioned, when the woman asked you, like, have you ever cried from wrestling? And I think that wrestling, any lifelong fan of the business has gone through every single fucking emotion that it comes to. You know what I mean? Like, there's moments where you're happy, that you're sad, where you're like, dude, I can remember like this is how fucking old I am. Is like the Stone Cold like making Vince piss himself with the fake gun. Dude, I was like 16 years old watching that shit, going like, he's gonna smoke him on national TV. Like, I legit thought I was gonna see this dude get fucking murdered on national TV. And the thing was, I was like, that time in the 90s was like, that's the shit that people would tune in for. Like, this may actually fucking go down.
Yeah, I got in a heated argument with when I was a kid. I got in a genuine heated argument with a Christian family because I was like, I know that Jesus has risen from the dead, but so has the Undertaker. All right. And you have to understand. I know that there's like, he did it. I saw it happen. He's died so many times. It's unbelievable. You can't stop him. Yeah,
wrestling's like like magic, really. Like, I find, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's a work, but like a lot of times, you know what I mean? As a fan, like, you don't really want to know how it's done. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy it for what it is.
Well, this is something I was actually going to ask you this evening, was that as someone who is a fan and now getting involved with podcasts and also, you know, working on the shows, like what's your, like, the thing that you engage with the most before you got involved and then the thing you engage with the most after, and is it the same thing? Because it's interesting once you make that swap, once you understand how it works.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always that got me in was characters. I always liked the bad guys. Like, even as a kid, like Hogan, I was like, yeah, he's cool and shit. But for me, it was like the Roddy Piper, you know what I mean? Shawn Michaels super kicking, you know, Marty Jannetty, you know, through the window. That's the sort of shit that really popped me. I just love the bad guy sort of aspect of it. Getting into it and sort of like now what I sort of find more interesting, exciting is how the shows are put together as like from a production, from a storyline, from a booking. That's the stuff to me, because like being able to be like, you know, breaking down that fourth wall behind the curtain a little bit and seeing that sort of stuff. That's the shit that really gets me excited, that I really like being around. Like, I like being around before the shows and seeing how things are being put together and after the shows and stuff like that. Like that's to me where I think the change has been.
Yeah, I completely agree, because that's interesting, because you love the bad guys. I used to hate the bad guys when I was a kid. I absolutely used to despise them. I absolutely despise Scott Hall, like unbelievably hated him. And suddenly, and as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, he is an absolute masterclass in exactly what he does, because I know exactly what he's trying to do and he's doing it so well. And it's like, suddenly now when you work in the space, you appreciate how well people are doing the things that they're doing. Compared, you know, that disconnects happen. You know, you're no longer the audience member, you're behind the curtain. It's like, you know, there was one show we were at recently, and it was with Lucci, and Lucci doing his usual thing. And we had people next to us, you know, we're at the desk, and someone's like, God, I hate him. Like, and you know, he's like, God, I hate him. He's so good at making me hate him, you know? And it's like, you know, you're onto something when you're making people, you know, staff members do that.
Well, dude, I commentated a match with him on the graduation day show, and like he's sitting there and like you know what I mean? Like he's calling me of the wrong name. Like I don't want to break down like and you know whatever like how it works behind the scenes or whatever. But
Yeah.
and it was so funny because I was getting there and he was like looking at me and he's like giving me like a cheeky smile out of one thing. I'm just like, you motherfucker.
Oh, the
But
live podcast we did with him and Rose and Gail was unbelievable. He is a force to be reckoned with.
he's an absolute pro though. Absolute pro.
Mhm.
Phenomenal,
Absolutely.
phenomenal. Like I really enjoyed having that moment to work with him. I thought it was really fun.
Mm.
I thought it was entertaining. I'm not sure if anyone else did, but you know, it's definitely enjoyable.
No, I
you know,
heard bits of it. Yeah,
yeah.
it was
No, it was
it was beautiful.
yeah, it was good. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
But I think but that's the thing. If you can get someone to really believe, like, where you know that they really, really love you, or they really fucking despise you, that is the ultimate thing to do. And I think, like, even you look at like old school wrestlers just come out and the heel gets the microphone. You're all a bunch of idiots. You know, like you can get the cheap sort of thing like that. But when you can get heat where like you go out there and it's like you're not insulting the audience, but you're insulting the audience. You know what I mean? Like, and I think someone like a Sam Osborne did it really well, where it's like someone yells something out, I'd be like, yeah, okay, mate. And just like a roll of the eye or something like that. And it's just like, hey, I'm not putting that shit over. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm you know, just
There's been so many that I've seen over this. You know, there was one from the Maddie doco with Wahlberg, which I've said to him many times. I think is just one of the cleverest things I've ever seen someone do off the cuff. It was when he had the thing with Ugg, that interaction, you know, the backstage interaction with him, and he was yelling at him. Is one of the fans yelled at him and said he was wearing a Roosters jersey, and he's like, this fan just yells at him, "Roosters suck." And cameras are rolling. He knows they're on. And he goes, yeah, you got me a beauty there, chef. And he's making fun of him, making fun of like Matt. It's this like weird deconstruction. Doesn't matter what he would have said, but he got him so quick. He's like, Rooster Stark, and Maddie's like, yeah, you got me a beauty there, champ. Well done. And it's like, whoa. It's like there's no way you can beat that. And it's like there's so many people who are, you know, so on top of it. I remember Bonza at New Japan. Because there was this tell me a joke thing that he was doing on one of the vlogs or something, and this guy in the middle of a you know a technical wrestling hold on Mick yells out at Bonza, you know, tell me a joke, Bonza, and then Bonza just looks at him in the middle of a move and says your life, and then gets back to the move, and it's like he never said anything again that night. You know, there's been so many where it's just like, how are you that quick? I can't believe it. It's just such an awareness and understanding of your character that's like. There's so many actors who don't even get close to that in terms of their awareness of their own character that they're playing. Improvisation is,
I was just going to say that I think to be a successful professional wrestler, I think like being really good at improv is probably like the you know a major benefit to having successful careers, because you know you look at some of the greats that have been in there that can just sort of react, you know, be doing a promo and just have these little instant reactions to certain things and be able to chop it up and to change stuff on the fly mid promo and understand how to turn that, you know, and to be quick witted as well. A lot of people wish they were, and not many people can actually do it.
Yeah. Speaking of Scott Hall, before when he got hit in the head with the soda can, and he did the thing where he put it into his hair, like, and didn't even go like that. He just let it hit him in the face and then, you know, put it into his hair. And, you know, it's just like those sorts of things where you're like, but that's what you go for. You go for that moment where something unscripted happens. It's like, it's, you know, in terms of wrestling teaching, it's like you see that so much of what's being taught is the adaptability. You know, your matches are planned from A to B to C, and there's gaps in between because if the fans aren't buying it or it's going a different direction, you can't keep selling them what they're not buying. They're your customer, you know, and they're here to have fun. And it's like, if they're not buying it, you've got to figure out clever ways to make that happen. And there's so many people. That's why I'm so privileged to be at PWAs. There's so many people who can do that. And you just go, wow, these people, you know, Unsocial Jordan, unbelievable. Will Keatis, amazing heels. Like the two of them are off the charts. There's so many people that just know exactly what they're doing and how to interact with people. It's the reason why you go. And the more that people do that, the better.
I think it's probably harder these days to be a heel in professional wrestling. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't want to say people are easily offended, but it's like you got to be careful with what you say. A lot of the time, like calling someone a fucking idiot on the microphone. Afterwards, well, you made me feel this certain. You know what I mean? Like it's hard, I think, for a character to be able to go like in a full heel mode, and also kind of you have to be conscious about what you're saying as well.
Definitely, and also your crowd as well, and who they are, because you don't know everyone's story in that room, and it becomes very tricky to navigate as well, because it's one of those things where someone could have a certain thing that sets them off, and they're getting involved in the show and having fun, and then you say that thing back and it ruins their day. It's like it's such a hard space to navigate nowadays, but it's important to find those things that things that get reactions without being lazy, or and going 100%. To someone's appearance or someone's this or that. It's the things that like deeply offend people in terms without like and upset them, that a guttural response without it being like properly offensive. It's those sorts of things.
That man, I got a good friend of mine who wrestles Vinny Vane, and he's like always a heel wherever he goes. And he's told me, man, like when he has an interaction with someone in the crowd and it gets a little bit lippy or whatever, after the show, man, he goes, I beeline to that person, put my hand out. Hey, man, thanks for coming out. Thanks for being part of the show. He goes, so then they understand that there's, hey, that's my character. Hey, thank you for having a bit of banter with me. So it's like, if they're like, oh, fuck this guy. Oh, shit, he's come out and sort of said, thank you for being part and contributing, like, completely. And he goes, it makes them walk away at the end of it going, okay, cool. This was a fun experience.
Great. No, that's really, really good. That's quite a good practice, I think, because it's one of those things where, people can, things like that where they're so intense. It's one of those like cringe moments where you go to sleep at night and it's the one thing it's the only thing you're thinking about is that one time that a wrestler yelled at you and or upset you or whatever. It's like that then just stops that from happening. Like it's just saying.
But dude, as well, I think a lot of like a lot of the audience as well now that you see at a lot of shows, that they're at most shows. You know what I mean? Like they're your core audience. And I think a lot of performers know what they can and can't say to certain people. You know what I mean? Like I think that as well. Like I think that the audience is, almost, I want to say, is part of the family as much as the performers and the crew are.
Absolutely, they are. Wrestling wouldn't exist without them. We wouldn't exist without them. That's the thing. Is these are as we're doing it for them. Every part of the production is doing it for them. So it's a relationship really, and we need to be aware of the feedback. It's like again, no one's going to eat up what if they're not going to buy what you're selling them if they don't like it.
No, 100%. And I think that's the the big thing as well, is having that understanding, having such a loyal fan base. And you know what, it's funny, you're always going to get the random people coming in to shows that just want to yell random shit out and disturb a show or something like that. But I feel like in many crowds, the crowds kind of police themselves with that shit.
I think there's enough of an us and them with that, like the regulars, and then the people who do that then get shut down pretty quickly. And then usually if a wrestler's like, if someone's had enough of it, they'll say something on the mic and then they're buried publicly for the rest of the night. And, it's, that's the end of that. It's like when people try to start chants. That's my favorite one, is when people try to start chants that no one's picking up on. Will Keatis is so good at just going, yeah, how'd that go for you? It's like, and they won't do it again.
Dude. But you know what, like, being in the live crowd is one of the most enjoyable experiences at a wrestling show, and it's also one of the biggest pains in the ass of being in a wrestling show. Like, I've been at some, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, just, dude, please, just shut the fuck up. Like, please, I get it. It's like, you're not funny. Your mates aren't popping for that shit. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah. It's just, but that's the thing, is it's just, for us, it's kind of noise that we feed off at times, but then sometimes it's like, if it's at the wrong moments and we notice it, that's when we're like, ooh, it's a bit rough.
But how do you find that from like a live production streaming service? Like, obviously having microphones up, if you're sort of getting like a crowd chanting something you don't want picked up, are you able to sort of like shut that shit down?
Yeah, well, we kind of like, Aiden's an absolute machine. He's our sound engineer, absolute machine gun of a human being, and soundy. But there's so much bleed going on, we can't take anything out completely because there's so many different microphones picking up different things.
Sure.
But he has the power. We've never done it before. We've never had the need to do that, because usually it kind of bleeds into a noise, it's like a general noise, and we often like to pick up whatever the crowd's putting out there anyway, because it makes them part of the show. But if it was something purely offensive, maybe not. But we've aired, like, you know, the chants against Unsocial Jordan have not been politically correct. Let's just say that much. And we have used them because that's the moment, you know, that's happening, and people are all feeding into it. Some of them are quite clever as well. Like there was Jordan's an incel. That's one of my favorite chants that we've had. There was one involving the C word. That was another one of my favorites that I won't repeat. Even though we are uncensored, I will not repeat this evening.
No, that's okay.
But you know, like that stuff, you know, give it a little boost. Give it a little boost.
Yeah.
You know, because it's, you know, because we, you know, the last 3 shows, I think, I could be wrong with that number, 3, I think, we've had new crowd microphones. And so the Metro show, we really noticed them because that was the loudest crowd we've had with those 3 shows. And they're stereo based. So if you listen and watch Fight TV with headphones on or on a stereo system, that crowd's actually split to left and right, and so it's a mirrored thing. So it puts you in the space a lot, really nicely. It's an incredible setup that we have. It's, you know, we had people that said this is a $10,000 stream or a $30,000 stream that is we're doing for, you know, pennies in comparison, because we know what we need and we're not spending a shitload of money on it to do it. But yeah, those sorts of things where it's like it puts you in the space and it feels full and it just feels really like, you know, we want that. That's, you know, we want noise. But yeah, we've never really had to cut
Pipe
the
anyone down. Dude, how awesome was the Metro show? I've watched that show a couple of times.
Oh, really?
I was working another show that night, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to be there live. But I sat down and watched it a couple of times. Absolutely thought it was great. You know, from crowd production to everything, you guys pulled it off. And from what I heard, it was record numbers for PWA as well. So
definitely was.
So congratulations on that. That's huge.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, that was an absolute, you know, mammoth effort, and so many things changed at the last minute, and so many things fell into our lap at the last minute. You know, we nearly, some of the production stuff we nearly didn't have. You know, the week off, because we just hadn't, it just wasn't looking like it was going to happen. That camera as well, that camera that was on the stage, the gimbal, the Steadicam gimbal rig, that was a mate of ours who helped set up the live stream initially. A friend of Thomas named Scott, he offered, they had these wireless rigs and they were like, let's test them. And can we test them on Saturday? And we'll build this chest rig and just have a play. And I'm like, absolutely, like it's the time to do it. I mean, that camera rig on the stage, I think I worked out would have cost more than it would have cost to run the show.
Fuck.
That rig was a lot of money. I realized what like gear they were using, and that just happened. That just happened, and it fell in our lap. And it's like, it's just all of these really good relationships we built along the way to you know, make these things happen. And the people, you know, you're interviewing me, but there's about 50 people that I need to that have put me on this pedestal that we're having this conversation, you know, about, because I can't operate 5 cameras on a show. You know, every single, you know, I can't sound mix, I can't switch graphics, I can't do any of that stuff. I mean, I could, but I can't be 5 people. You know what I mean?
Like, you can't do 5 jobs at once. That's impossible, you know?
Yeah. So the onus is on the people that have also come to help so many times, you know, people like Aiden as well, who's now, you know, our head audio engineer and has built, one of the people who's built the company to what it is today. He holds the keys to the kingdom essentially on the sound department. You know, Jax is now taking, you know, always taking on more responsibility with every waking moment. He's got a mountain on his shoulders. We've got people like, you know, like Dean. There's a guy named Dean who's the ringside camera operator who's done it for the last, or post lockdown, has done every show, bar one. You know, Aiden's done every show for like 3 years, you know, and these people are just putting in a shitload
massive
of time.
amounts of commitment, dude. You know, people are so committed to this, and it's like, you know, there's so many people with their hands on it or hands in it, willing to help, that it's no doubt that it's seen the success that it's seen because of so many people invested in it. And I think that that's the thing, when you build a community of people that all have a similar goal in mind to achieve, you get there so quick. I think, obviously PWA is, a world-class promotion, and from how everything's done, from production to meetings, everything like that, like being from a behind the scenes aspect, like walking into that, seeing how it's done, it is like the most professional shit that I've ever experienced walking into anything in my life. Like, legitimately, it's insane.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like, it's called professional wrestling, and the only word that separates it from a bunch of people play fighting in an RSL is the word professional, and you'd be surprised at how many places don't use that word. And it's like in terms of their practice, and it's like we're a business, we're a professional business. We've got professional people. I've come from the film world that is wrestling's loose to me. Like that's a loose workflow for me compared to other places. It's nuts. But we're kind of blending and having, here's how we do things and those sorts of stuff. It's important to us that it's not just, it's not just a product, it's behind the scenes and how we operate. We have important things, we have waivers, we have legal stuff, we have meetings, conversations, code of conducts, those sorts of things that are really important because, so much of pro wrestling has been marred by things that don't do these things. And don't look after the people that they employ, and don't look after the people that the fans as well, everything, the venues, everything, the amount of venues that especially, I'm sure the States has about 1 million more examples, but there's venues that are like, oh, we had a bad experience, we're not going to touch you again. We're not going to touch pro wrestling, not you specifically, someone else ruined it for everyone. Those sorts of things. It's like, it's important to us that we run it on a world-class, because then as soon as the opportunities get bigger, we have to deal with bigger people, and bigger, those sorts of people that have been around a long time. And if they come and go, wow, this is run really well, it only makes a better name for us as well. As show can look great, but if you treat it like shit behind the curtain, then no one's going to want to come back.
Yeah, and I think it's important how you present the product as well. Like, I was reading the other day, I think it was in the UK, where they had this indie show, which was promoted as an all-family show, sold family tickets to this show, and in the main event, it turned into a fucking death match where guys are bringing out like panes of glass and fucking weed whackers and stuff like that, and police ended up getting called for this, and you know what I mean? Like they launched a police investigation because it's they had kids fucking running out of there screaming and shit, and I'm just and the promoter's response was, I had no idea this was going to happen. You know what I mean? You've seen before the shows at fucking wrestling shows, exactly. You see someone walking around with a fucking weed whacker, you'd be like, what's up with that, bro?
Yeah. It didn't slip under the ring, someone didn't trip and drop it under there, it takes a lot of effort to get that in there. Yeah, no, that sort of stuff is just kind of, it's disappointing.
But I think that's the thing that PWA doesn't do is or what PWA does correctly is promotes itself for the audience that it's intended for. You know what I mean? And I think that that's an important aspect. Like when you go to an 18 ages and above show, you're going to see adult orientated content, or you're not going to want to take your kids to see that show. You know what I mean? There's going to be stuff that aren't kid friendly, and that's the right way to promote it, because you're not then going to find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh fuck, sorry, and have to put out public apologies and shit like that, because then you're just on your back foot.
Yeah, but then it also I guess the other thing about that is though is you're acknowledging your audience in terms of who you want to be there, and so it's people who are into the live, we have such a parallel with the live music scene and other places. It's if you're going to go to a wrestling show for the first time and you say that it's 18 plus and it's drinks and it's a pub vibe and it's I might go, because it's not going to be kiddie or you know what I mean? It's this is actually catered to me as an adult who has a history of loving wrestling or something like that. It's also saying to the people that are considering coming, this is for you. It's not just for whoever else you think it is. 9-year-olds with Red Stereo t-shirts. It's for it's for you.
You're also setting a precedent of the kind of show that you want to put on and promote, really, essentially, as well.
Yeah, definitely. There has always it is 18 plus, but we've also always had rules We're not,
Oh, of course,
yeah,
of course.
yeah. Like, and so that in that sense is very. We have our brand, every brand, and I think that's what is so good about PWA is our brand is so well realized in terms of what our world is, and it's something I've said a few times to other people is there's such a parallel with wrestling and TV show writing in terms of show running and stuff, is that there's a story world and that world has X amount of like certain rules. And so many people think that story world means like it's Marvel, people can fly. It's not that. It's like in this world, there are these themes and these ideas, and people feel like this, or they're downtrodden, or they're whatever. PWA's got a very realized story world, and it's like, and so the same one wrestler can go into that story world and know exactly where they would sit, if they're going to be a heel, a face, and how they're going to interact with every single wrestler that's there. You get other companies that are kind of forming and they don't know what their world is. Places like Lucha Underground has such a well-realized story world. WWE Sports Entertainment, that is a very real, like very well-realized story world. Places like Impact have that, that edge. New Japan is absolutely like, exactly what that world is. And so the same wrestler can work in all of those places, in all of those different places, and be entirely different things in all of them, but keep their core of what their character is. And how they interact is slightly different, like there's places where North Shore Wrestling is an example in Australia that is a face in one company and an absolutely hated collection of people in another. And that's purely based off geography, but also like in terms of the story world and the characters and things and what they often promote. It's those sorts of ideas. But PWA has got such a well-realized story world, and we've had conversations about this before. We often get misidentified as a comedy company when, or like the Chikara of Australia is a term that is often formed. I don't think that's true necessarily, because we do a lot of comedy stuff, but I think in terms of our national language, especially if you watch Australian films and Australian, we love a yarn, we love a joke, we love a bit of a, we love to stir the shit,
Yeah, 100%.
And it's part of our, we never take ourselves, we take the piss, and we never take ourselves too seriously. And that is a big brand statement of PWA, is never take ourselves too seriously. We have moments where we do, and we pull it back, and those sorts of things where it's like, we can't, we're not a comedy company. We love to have a laugh every now and then, because we understand that people, like what the artifice of what we're doing is people in a ring pretending to fight each other,
But I think if you're going to be a successful, like professional wrestling company, you have to be able to deliver different types of genres of professional wrestling. The way I've always explained pro wrestling is it's kind of got to be like a smorgasbord of what pro wrestling is. Okay, great. You know what I mean? You've got like Robbie Eagles over here, who's going to go and put on some of the best high flying that you're going to see. You've got Jess Troy, who can do some of the best chain wrestling and technical wrestling that you're going to see. You've got a Will Keatis, who can be this entertaining fucking heel with a put in a bit of comedy. You've got Big Fudge, this over the top fucking character, hugely over with the crowd. You know what I mean? So you've got these different types of characters. Charlie Evans, the fucking deathmatch badass. You know what I mean? You've got these different characters that can come in, and they all have their spot on the show. They all have particular fans that come to see that particular thing. But if you can sit there and get those fans that come in to see, okay, I'm a huge Big Fudge fan, I want to come in and see him take the piss out of Unsocial Jordan and whatever. Holy shit, I just saw Jess Troy versus Sam Osborne on the same show. What the fuck was, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And so on and so on. Then you get people to buy in.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was about to say. Is there's genres that often have much more of a gateway drug to wrestling. They have a much more universal, like comedy wrestling and like high flying wrestling are the two that I notice new fans go, holy God, I get it. I didn't get it before, and now I get it. And if those things, especially if they're in the opening part of the show, and like intro you and then you're in. It's like the opening of a good film, Doesn't matter what happens next. If it gets you, if it hooks you, you're in. They then, you see the chain wrestling, because that's often the one that people kind of go, I don't quite get what's happening. It's like, that's kind of like, it's like art house films for filmmakers. They're films for filmmakers. It's like that's wrestling for wrestlers or wrestling 100%. Fans. You know what I mean? it's like,
But
those
it's like
people,
UFC fights, dude. People want to see like the guys like throwing leather, but when it goes down to the ground and people are doing some fucking insane Brazilian jiu-jitsu and grappling, unless you have a grappling background or you're a huge like mark for like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you're not going to appreciate it. You're going to go, this is the most boring fight in the world, but they could be doing the most fucking ridiculous shit you can see, you know?
you can see, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and it doesn't look like much, you know, and it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, okay. So it's like, yeah, it's that sandwich of like loud and exciting and those other sort of like those softer moments, especially character moments and stuff, like matches that tell a really particular moment in a story that aren't the flashiest match, but they have a real purpose for being there. Putting those around those other things makes the fan, especially new fans, go, I understand, I'm in. Great stuff, you know, and it's so tactical and well thought out. Yeah, it's an art form as well, just like the booking aspect and the you know, and the storytelling aspect. It's hard because you've got 500 people giving you live feedback every day that you do a show, and you know that's all you can learn from, because it's, you know, there's no school for writing wrestling, really.
There's not. I mean, it's like there's
Yeah.
good and there's good and there's bad.
Yeah,
And
and
you
then you
know,
go,
like when it's good, it's really good. When there's bad wrestling, it's doesn't matter the genre. It's just fucking bad wrestling.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's like a bad movie. You know, you can't look away, but it's a wonderful time. You know, so there's a place for all of it, really, to be honest. Yeah,
I agree. But as far as like, you know, with audience and filming and stuff like that, when you're like filming the shows, is there ever like an importance of you going, okay, I want to make sure that I don't lose my audience here? Like, how do you structure, you know, as you said, having 5 cameras running around, having all these people, how do you as a director structure a show like this, going, okay, how do I get the best angles that I'm putting on this live stream right now?
oh, that's a brilliant question. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of, we learned from getting it wrong. I think, you know, there's one of the saying that we like to go by is, you know, we'll go out of a show, especially like the Metro, and the one thing we'll walk away with is thinking of like all of the things that we missed. You know, we'll get it right for, you know, it's a 2.5 hour show. We'll get it right for 2 hours and 28 minutes. And that
Yeah.
2 minutes of little things that are missed, that's the only thing that we'll remember. And that's what we learned from. But in terms of structure, we've started to, you know, we've built our own language. You know, it's like, I don't know if I want to tell you, because then it's like, you'll know. But like in terms of like entrances, there's specific camera cuts, and we usually do the same ones to go, you know, in wide nameplate shot out to, especially with the new slider. There's a lovely new slider that we have. We love to, especially during rumbles. Yeah, I'm sure you noticed in the rumble, we love to cut to that gets ring and entranceway. It moves slowly, you know, starts to show the focus towards the stage. We have these lovely UTech comm systems that are quite new as well for us, that allow a lot of communication. And we can say, give us something like this, give us crowd, give us this. Because, you know, a lot of it's feeling it as well. You know, you're feeling the moment and you're going more, you know, close up. You're just yelling a lot of yelling of like what I want and what I, you know, because it's all, we're all making it up. But there are things, you know, that we discussed beforehand that go, this is important. Here's how I think we should cover it. The opening of the show at the King of the Metro, that was something we actually rehearsed, which we don't do often, was going behind him to show the crowd for the first time during his entrance.
Yeah, beautiful
that sort of
shot.
stuff. Oh, unbelievable. That's on that rig that Scott built us, you know, the incredible bloody rig that we had landed to our lap. But, you know, it's a lot of it is we bounce off what we're seeing. And to answer your question in terms of how we plan, you know, because again, like them, you can't plan it too rigid, because otherwise, you know, things change, things happen. You know, you chat to someone to say these 2 things are going to happen on these sides of the ring, and then, you know, that's 5 minutes in, it's all changed, and suddenly they're on the opposite sides, you know, and it's like we're in the wrong spot for this. We've got to figure that out, because we were meant to get a close up of someone's face front on, and now we've got the back of their head. Like, or like, you know, just the way things are, a ref's landed in front of the camera that we're going to use for that moment, so we have to switch to something else. It's like all those sorts of things where it's like we have to be adaptable. We have to be able to communicate to be adaptable. Yeah, and so much of it is just feeling that moment. Like you know, we'll often do, and a lot of our camera operators know what we want them to do now, which we love. Like, especially if there's a double down where both wrestlers are just on the ground. hard cams will start slowly zooming out. We know that they know that we're about to cut to them and ask them to slowly zoom out while the crowd goes, one, da, 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 da. And, we're slowly zooming out. And these people are like on the ground, like fight forever. A lot of chants. We love to do a slow zoom as well. We love pops on flips now as well. That's one of my favorite things is doing a little zoom pop when someone does, like they're on the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
We're in. And then as they go to the jump, we pop out and then they do the flip. All those little things. Yeah.
100%. And I think that it's such one of those interesting like industries to be able to like filmmaking, but also like filming professional wrestling. Like I think it would be one of the hardest things to perform, like as to film, I should say. Because it's like it's just so unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like every move, every moment, you're not going to know what's going on. Like as you said, you got to be adaptable and be able to sort of move around.
We've come this close. We've come this close. We've ruined a camera in Melbourne. That's the only time we've ruined a camera. But we've come this close every other time. And it's like things like Robbie's got a 619 through the rope while they're in the buckle. So the cameras often get close to the person in the buckle, and then whoop, he took out a camera in New Japan actually doing the move. Those sorts of things. But it's like you got to have such a deep understanding of wrestling moves and wrestling structure. And that's why we it's really important for us to have camera operators, especially that have been around, either have a pre-existing love of wrestling, or which is a much harder thing to find than people who can just come repetitively to the shows, and that way you can see, because there's one of my favorite moments was at Newey actually, and it was early on, and one of our camera operators, Mick, Mick he sometimes does the bounce off the rope where you put your head down and Matt Cross does it as well. That thing where you use your shoulders.
I know the one. Yeah, like Tyler Bates does it, I think, as well.
Yeah. It's like and you end up back in the ring. And so one of our camera operators was ringside for that. Yeah, the two people in the ring, and Mick's done this move, and then we've just watched the camera just rock out a shot, like just run, and we're like, "What's happened?" And then the match films, and goes back to how it was. And I talked to him in intermission. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I thought Mick was just going to do a flip onto me for no reason. I was like,
that is fucking perfect.
I'm like, no, he did a bounce back. It's like a springboard back. But he's like, he's just because he was so new to wrestling. Yeah. Someone's running at you and then jumping. Like, of course you're going to think you're going to get landed on. But it's like, logically, who's he jumping on? Like, there's no one out there with you. Like,
it's like, fuck this camera guy.
Yeah. So like those are the things. Like, you start to build up on like what the fake outs are going to be. I kind of like it though when camera operators don't know when fake outs are going to happen, because the camera like moves expecting them to be there and they're not, and it kind of like sells it a bit. If you know it's going to happen, then it.
Well, dude, like we'll talk before. Like I watch NXT every week, and one of the things that I've always complained about NXT is their camera work is so shit.
Really?
Like their production is fucking terrible. Like certain things, like they've got this performer Nikita Lyons does this leg split finish thing. Spot on, would be look perfect on a hard cam, and like 2 weeks in a row they've got it like in such weird angles that are coming on, like. Something's happened, like they go for a pinfall, but then they'll go for a shot to the crowd, and I'm like, the pinfall's kind of the whole point of a wrestling match. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's stuff that we also learned because we, especially like people coming from the film world, they don't quite know what the specific things that we're looking for in a match are, and they're often not logical. Like if you're approaching it from a non-wrestling background, the person on the ground that's rolled out in front of you is obviously the thing that you would want to film, because you think that you have to get that. But it's a four-way match, and four-way matches often, people roll out, so the thing that can happen in the middle, like it's those sorts of things. So it's like, pinfalls where it's like someone's over here, but the pinfall's happening and no one's filming it. Like those sorts of things we had early on as well, and that's why communication became really important, was because we needed to like finding those things, like cutting to crowd when Edge comes back for the Rumble, like those sorts of things. It's like the moment is telling you what to do, and you've got to roll with it or be completely unaware. And like there's moments where those sorts of things happen, or there's times where we accidentally hit the wrong camera, that just genuinely like your finger hits the wrong button.
But that goes to show, dude, like it doesn't necessarily matter what the budget that you have. You know what I mean? If WWE and NXT with, you know, multi-millions of dollars worth of budget can have these fuck ups, it just goes to show you know what I mean? It's the person who's operating, who's calling the shots, which really pull it off.
And that's it. Is especially with those, they almost have too many options. They have, you know, 16 cameras in front of them, and they see a great shot of a crowd, you know, a crowd member going absolute ballistic. And so much WWE is selling the universe idea, and selling that, you know, the crowd is part of the family. So they love to get those shots in. But like being unaware of what's happening, you've got so many things to take. You got to take in 6K. I can't believe I have no idea how they do it. 16 cameras, you got to look at once to make your decisions. And it's like, how can you do that? Of course you're going to miss something. Because you've got like, oh, that's a great shot of a crowd, and then you'd miss Edge sprinting down the, you know, the runway to do the spear or whatever. It's like I guess we're limited with 5 or 6. It sounds like a lot, but like, you know what all of them are doing. You can kind of get an idea of where they're going to be. The ringside ones are the hardest to watch because, you know, high cam's always going to be front and center. The slider's always going to be getting something. You know, entrance cam's sometimes getting something interesting, but like those 2 hard cams are the ones that you're just bouncing your eye between to see where you're going. There's nothing like it really, like live switching. There's really nothing like it because it's so in the moment. You've got to sit in it, and it's crazy. And you know, we're getting better at it. It's hard. It's definitely hard. I think you know, it's one of the most challenging things you can do in the film world. I think is live switching and live, you know, anything live.
I mean, there's so much shit that can go wrong when you're live. You know what I mean? Like
we've had it all.
But you know, as far as like other wrestling promotions, have you guys been contacted by other companies say, hey, look, we really like the shit that you guys are doing, you know, can you come and do that same shit for us? Like, you know, how's it been like through like the Australian scene for you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, MCW was definitely one of those conversations that went well. Yeah, we've had a couple, especially in the promo world. I've had a few, and it's one of those things where it's like I mean, wrestling's not got a big budget, and it's one of those things where it's like if it's not for the thing that I'm working passionately for, I can't do it for free. And you know, or you know, a little bit of, you know, I have to charge what I would normally charge in film, otherwise I can't do it because my time is very limited. I'm
100%, you know, dude. You still have to pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. It's like you know, and so there's been conversations before about like, you know, can you do a documentary for us especially after Maddie's one, because that was the first time that people kind of were aware of me and started contacting me directly and asking for stuff. And that was one where it was like, oh, can you do a documentary for us? And I'm like, what's the story? What's the, you know, like I can't just magic one. Like there's so much that goes into that, you know, we didn't just make that up and film Maddie for 3 shows and then suddenly we had a story. There's a lot of other things going on. There's a lot of stuff happening, you know, all those sorts of things. So it's like, yeah, it's happened. It's definitely happened. And honestly, like we're so on board with the idea of we want to build everything because it makes us. We want competition because it keeps us. You know, everything's elevating. You know, the higher the quality of us goes, the bigger, you know, the bar is set for everyone else, and then that brings up all Australian wrestling. You know, to some people's detriment, we have wrestlers who've said, you know. Before we could film things on an iPhone and it'd be fine. Now we have to do a 6-hour shoot in my fucking living room. And it's like, you know, like it's like, you know, it brings everyone up and it changes the space. And, you know, that's only going to make things better for fan engagement. You know, Twitter and everything, we see people enjoying it and noticing it. And that's why we do it. If no one noticed it, no one cared, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, but really, I mean, we've been we've been luckily quite exclusive, I think, as well. Which is nice. Build our own.
Because I think as well, like that level, you know what I mean? Like you're known as the PWA production crew. You know what I mean? Like, it's on another level. I wish you guys all the world of success. I think you guys are great human beings. You're great at what you do. You would definitely accentuate an already amazing product. But we are getting to that time where it is 60 seconds with Piers. We're told Ben how this is going to work. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in for the first time or you're listening for the first time, how 60 seconds with Piers goes is I'm going to fire as many questions as I can at Mr. Ben Anderson. He has 60 seconds to answer as many of these motherfucking questions that I'm going to throw at him. Ben, good luck. You let me know when you're ready and I'll get the clock started, bro.
I am ready, my friend. Let's go for it.
Favorite song to sing at karaoke?
Oh, shit. Fantasy by Mariah Carey.
If you could take all the credit for any film in history, which film would it be?
The Matrix.
You have 24 hours to spend $2 million. How do you spend it?
Camera gear.
If you could change the result of any wrestling match in history, what would it be?
Shark Boy winning the TNA World Title.
You're the lead singer of a band and get to go on tour with them for 6 months. You can choose any band in the world. Which band do you choose?
White Denim. A bit odd, but yeah. A lot of Googling.
iTunes or Spotify?
Spotify for sure.
What languages do you speak besides English?
2 words of German.
2 words. Fair enough. And which Chris is hotter, Hemsworth, Evans, or Pratt?
Hemsworth.
Best subject at school?
Bloody visual arts.
And last question. In 5 minutes, you are being shipped to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
I take the Lemon Jelly album back there, and I take a toothbrush.
There you go. Got to stay minty fresh when you're out of space. Even got to, you never know who, Ben, those aliens might want to give you a big old kiss and go, hey, Weird Al, come here, brother.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I've got music for him. I've got really good space music for him as well.
That's some really thought behind it. But Ben, thank you for coming on. Great time. I didn't even realize we'd actually hit an hour mark. That's when you know you've got great conversation. So, dude, thank you again for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure talking with you. Definitely want to have you back on again sometime. But where can everyone find you on social media and can support and follow you?
You can find me on Ben Anderson Films on Instagram. That's probably the main place I post. I'm also director_Ben on Twitter. That's about it. I am working on a film at the moment called Bird Eater as well. If they have an Instagram page called birdeater.film, I think. That'll be out hopefully by the end of the year or early next year. Yeah, that's about it, really. I've also got a YouTube channel, Ben Anderson Films on YouTube, but not much is on there. I'll fix that up one day. When I have time.
Guys. Go give him a subscribe. All 1,057 followers on MWA Podcast Network. Go over and subscribe to Ben Anderson Films. We'd appreciate it. He'd appreciate it. Huge shout out to our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPod to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Make sure you tune in for some of our shows tomorrow. Killing the Business will be at 10 a.m. Australian time, which is 8 p.m. USA Eastern. So tune in for that. Tune in next week. I'm going to have some more guests coming for Shooting the Shit Uncensored. But till then, all the best. Take care. We'll see you soon. Peace.